And how about the first phase? Could you say no to the pipeline?
Well, actually, it was up to the governments to give the permission. So that it is that was and in Finland it was this permission was considered based on the environmental impact assessment, and according to those results and which actually have been confirmed by the monitoring, so that the impact of the pipeline to the environment was really of minor importance. So for that reason, there was, based on that, there was no reason to reject the application, to have it.
Concerning your risk analysis and the point that was made before, what was the worst case event? You know, there's one thing, the worst case during operation, but also during construction. Do you have and any risk analysis should consider a clear worst case event and the risk of that occurring? Now, for example, I noticed on the slides that you showed briefly, which had graphs of various different pollutants, the one that showed plutonium had one really big spike in comparison to the others just in one small area. Did you have a worst case?
First of all, I didn't have any case because I wasn't responsible of this. That the company had made this environment impact assessment definitely, but that was evaluated then in every country and approved, of course. So that actually the worst case scenarios were dealing with the accidents with ships during the construction and possible oil spills based on that, so that the concentrations on, for example, these artificial radionuclides, they are so small in the sediment, so they are not really causing any risk. And this has been evaluated by the HELCOM Morse group several times. So that and also the risk which was related to dumped munition was also evaluated, and actually in the Gulf of Finland the risk was rather small, but the main dump sites are in the southern Baltic, and quite a lot of additional investigations and analyses were carried there.
Do you think that the approach of having the company run its own environmental assessment is a good one?
Well, that is based on the law. So this is based on the ESPO convention and as well as the national legislation. So it's the polluter pays principle. So but then this, for example, the monitoring as well as the, so to say, scientific work carried out for the impact assessment, that was done by independent companies and consultants.
Oh yes, this was such a large installation in such a small sea area that everybody felt somehow touched by it, and it wasn't surprising that the community was very strongly polarized during this whole process, and the line, the dividing line was exactly the same pipeline. So the west was more or less one opinion, to the east was other opinion. But I think that this pipeline made a lot of good things for Baltic Sea science, because it raised some generic questions which we should answer in some time. And unfortunately, those questions were basically asked by the community outside of the Baltic Sea science, but also marine science community. The first question which was asked by Royal Society was that whether it's reasonable and sensible to use criteria for open ocean for installations in particularly sensible sea area. So the question was, why didn't you use criteria for Galapagos Island or Great Coral Reef in the Baltic Sea? But this question was raised too late. The other question which was raised by Environmental Steering Panel of European Academy Scientific Advisory Council was whether it's somehow, it was a governance issue, whether it's reasonable and sensible to divide a global problem in the terms of the Baltic Sea into series of bilateral consultations. It's not clear whether it's legal in principle. And the third question, which is actually much more close to us and which was also highlighted by this procedure, is that in comparison with atmosphere, where there is more or less clear regulation in the sense that the polluter pays if UK is producing some acid rain for Norway, UK pays for the pollution which is transported by atmosphere. There's nothing similar for marine environment. It's a major gap in international legislation. And I'm really happy that this gap was also highlighted by the NordStream process, and this question is now being asked. So we have really possibility for being pioneers in solving of those three questions. And my question is whether it's possible to start solving of those things in Baltic Sea scale through HELCOM system.
First of all, I'm not anymore involved in HELCOM secretariat work, so I cannot answer to that. But one thing is that my last slide, which I forgot to show to you, is showing that actually the pipeline, you hardly are able to see it there on the map, because this is really mapping all different kind of activities which are carried out in the sea area. And really the marine spatial planning, if it's done in a right way based on ecosystem approach, this is something which should be considered. And I think that your question is very much related to that, because marine spatial planning also include all different kind of international legal issues, transboundary effects of pollution and all that kind of things. So that I hope definitely that bonus program is also trying to support scientific research which is dealing with marine spatial planning, and definitely I would say that the Baltic Sea could be a really good demonstration case for ecosystem-based marine spatial planning.
Okay, then we'll have maybe the last question now.
Juha-Markku, I have a question to this problem of the munition removement. How often it happened that you found munition, and how often you have to remove it, and what was the procedure if you have unidentified munition?
Yeah, first of all, of course, the idea was to try to identify what is in a, so to say, container with unknown content, and then in the Gulf of Finland, all the munition which was found was conventional, so there was no nerve gases, nothing like this kind of a chemical munition, so they were just destroyed. And this is the normal procedure which has been carried out since the last war, almost every year. So that, for example, when I was a kid, there was radio announced every day that beware of this kind of a detonation which is taking place here and there. So that was nothing exceptional, and the Baltic Sea had not, so to say, destroyed due to that. So they are still so local, and in this case, a real safety system was created. So they were trying to keep the fish away. They had some kind of a pingers there. They were trying to keep the seals away, as well as the pleasure boat owners and ship traffic, of course, so that there were quite a lot of real good safety precautions, and really the effect of these detonations, they were very local. But then I understood that I have not followed so carefully the process in the southern Baltic Sea, but the idea was, if I'm correct, so that they were trying to avoid those dumping sites where these chemical munitions have been dumped, because removal of those is pretty difficult.
Okay, thank you very much. And I must say that all our expectations of an exciting evening were really fulfilled. Thanks to Donald and thanks to Juha-Markku for your excellent presentations. And